You know, it would have been nice to have somebody here.
What?
We are live.
Oh, okay.
Hello, hello. Let's give it a few minutes to see for people to join. They can't join until we're actually live.
Oh, okay.
So let's give it just a few minutes. I'm going to go on here and find our live. And we are live. And we are live. And we are live.
Yeah, turn your.
There we go. All right, there's a little delay. Let's give it just a few minutes.
So which one's the hot seat? Which one's the hot
I
seat
feel
here?
like mine is. I feel like I'm already. Look, we should have turned the fan on. Okay, I'm not going to send out reminders. People know
Okay.
we are live.
Well, welcome from Saginaw, right?
Yeah. Because I do. You got a cup holder in that chair there?
I do not.
Oh, upgrade. No.
Right, I know, right? Seriously.
All right. Welcome to the Jay and Margot Show, where we keep it real, raw, and respectful. Today marks a milestone for the Jay and Margot Show. This is our 25th episode.
Wow.
So, yay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We have been consistent for 25 weeks. It's huge. I am joined with two guests today. Lady J is out for surgery, as she had announced previous episodes before. Our thoughts and prayers are with her as she's in recovery right now. And so I am joined tonight by two of some of my favorite men in my life that I've known for some time. Joining us right here, we have Mr. Dr. Melvin McDowell. He's been married for 20 years, father of 3 daughters. He founded the McDowell Healing Arts Center that was established in 2015, which is now a multi-location, multi-county agency. He is a college professor for the Masters of Social Work at SVSU, and he is a mental health therapist. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And we have Adrian Rodriguez, who is a Michigan native, a military veteran of 28 years.
28 years.
Okay. I'm like, I can't even read this. He's currently single, ladies. Previously married with 3 adult children, and he is an IT professional with a Bachelor's of Science in Information Management. Thank you for joining us, both of you. Just want to give you guys a little rules as we go along here. To keep it respectful, we don't use personal names of people that we talk about in our past. For men, we say John, and for women, we say Jane. Mm-hmm. So that's just, to respect everybody's privacy. So if we can kind of remember that. And anybody who is tuning in and joining us, I see we got 4 people already on. If you can kind of just drop in the comments, let us know that you can hear us. And then also where you're tuning in from, that would be great. We'd love to see, what counties, what states are listening to us live. And if you cannot hear us, somebody drop me a message through Facebook Messenger or text me. You got if anybody close to me knows my personal number, text me, let us know. So that we covered the rules. And tonight we are going to be discussing how to build healthy relationships. We're going to start this off talking about healthy boundaries, and mainly like in friendships. And of course, that's also going to kind of lead us into like relationships, trying dating, those kinds of things.
Awesome.
So with that being said, Dr. McDowell, how about you lead us off in telling us what are some good, healthy boundaries that a person should have for themselves, as far as, even friendships?
Yeah. I think, so first off, I believe that, we have to have boundaries in our relationships. It's so important to have boundaries and to hold true to those boundaries. But I commonly talk about um non-negotiables. I think maybe you and I may have had a conversation about this
Yes,
years
yes.
ago.
Yep.
Non-negotiables. I think they're, and I guess there should be I personally feel that there should be some non-negotiables. There should be some things in our lives that, like, we just don't negotiate, and like that's the beginning of creating those healthy boundaries. And so, if you're in a relationship, maybe your non-negotiable is, I don't negotiate cheating.
Oh,
Like,
definitely.
that's a
Yes,
non-negotiable,
yes,
right?
yes.
Or maybe in friendships, just a platonic friendship, maybe your non-negotiable is something like, what happens in our conversation stays in our conversation. So if I hear that you're talking about what we talked about, and we knew we had an understanding that it was between us, but now you're talking to other people about, something that we held between us, maybe not, maybe that's my non-negotiable.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of different things that we can do to kind of create some of those, healthy boundaries. But again, they start with us. What's important to me? You have to ask yourself that question. What is important to you? And so, yeah, so I guess that's how I would start to answer that
Okay.
question. Yeah.
And I'll kick it off next, and then Adrian, you can
Now you
follow
put in the
up with
hot seat.
some of
Okay.
what some of yours are. Like this year, I declared at the beginning of the year that I was going to eliminate a lot of things that didn't serve purpose in my life anymore,
Yeah.
and that also did mean people that didn't have the same values, or a lot of because a lot of people today, even with this election thing that just happened, just the negative comments, negative talk. I'm trying to surround myself with people, who are uplifting, encouraging, and supportive.
Mhm.
I've also noticed, being an entrepreneur, you hear me and Lady J talk about this all the time. We are totally about collaboration and
Mhm.
uplifting each other, not competition.
Mhm.
I hear from other people the way that they talk, they view me as competition. And I know that they don't have my best interest at heart. So that's kind of a non negotiable. If you're in my inner circle, you may be an acquaintance, but an acquaintance does not get my time daily, weekly, maybe once a month kind of thing. Um, so that's kind of like where I'm at right now with my non negotiables. What about you, Adrian?
Ooh, okay, hot seat. For me, I started out with looking at peace, right? If you're a disruptor of my
Mm,
peace,
that's good.
and what I mean by that is you not necessarily, there may not be peace between us, but if you are the disruptor of that peace, meaning it's the actions, the decisions that you're making, whether in friendship or if it'll be in a relationship, even family, you learn to distance yourself, or I have to distance myself from that because those things to me lead to worse places than you're already at, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And along with that goes, this is my year of no.
Okay.
And I use no. It sounds like a negative connotation, but it's really not. For me, my no is for me establishing my boundaries and what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not willing to accept. So when I say it's my year of no or my era of no, we use all these different fancy terms, and for me, I think no is such a powerful thing because I don't want to say your no's mean yeses, but it guides me towards what I truly want and what I don't want in my life. So if you disrupt my peace, no, I won't have that. Or no,
Amen.
I believe we ought to do that. So no can be used as a positive for me. So that's why I say it's my era of no. So those are two key boundaries that I really work to help implement into my life this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would just add to that. I mean, being able to say no, like, some people struggle with saying no.
Oh yes.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it almost makes me want to say, like, saying no is a skill that some of us almost have to, acquire and
Yes.
and 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 learn, because, and that could stem from many different places. It can stem from our, previous relationships. It can stem from our childhood. Some of us are people pleasers.
That, I was just
You
gonna
know,
say that. That was
yeah,
one
Yep.
of my things.
yeah,
I used to be a people pleaser.
yeah,
Me too.
yeah. Same,
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
go
and
ahead.
and
I
I
didn't mean
think
to cut you off.
Oh, no, no. I mean, that was pretty much my thought there. But yeah, learning to say no it's been a hard pill to swallow, but also just kind of something that I've had to just kind of monitor myself over the years, growing up, wanting to, even not wanting to make people mad, so like I go
Mhm.
back to my childhood, think about, my dad and stuff, everything was yes, whatever you need, because I just didn't want to make him mad,
Yes.
and so, and him being mad was other cause other ramifications,
Oh, yeah.
so it's like that gets ingrained into you,
Yes.
so it's like, oh,
Mhm.
Margot's gonna get mad, let me not say no,
Right.
or so so it that's something that I've had to deal with over the years, but it definitely is a skill to be able to say no and be confident in your no. It's like, no, that's not something that I think I want to do right now, but thank you, or
Yeah.
Exactly.
something like that,
And that's been
so
hard for me.
yeah.
Growing up being in military, a lot of times you can't say no to things, so you're
Mm,
always saying yes, sir. We'll
yeah,
accomplish that, or what have you. Right? A new relationship, you always want to say yes. You don't want to say no. So for me, I learned that okay, if I say yes, does that disrupt my peace because it's something I really don't want to do? So I use no to help me balance those things to see
yeah,
is it something I can still manage, or will it truly disrupt that? So
yeah,
for me,
Mhm.
that's how I tie the two together.
yeah.
Wow, that's good. So with that being said, that kind of makes me question a thing. So we hear about reciprocity
Hmm.
in every relationship. It
Hmm.
should be reciprocal
Hmm.
toward each other. So even in friendship, because we have the friends who call and always ask for favors or ask us to go, to all these places that might not necessarily line up with our values. So if, or even family members, let's, because we're talking about relationships in general. So what does that look like, especially with family members, where brothers and sisters, close cousins, where that relationship is important, but yet if it doesn't serve the purpose, or if you're in your era of no, I'm in my era of eliminating things that don't serve a purpose, toward my life growing or helping me grow, and I start saying no to people who were very used to me saying yes, or man, you always wanted to go out, or you were always down to go drinking or partying or this or that, like you said, being confident in that no. But then you're going to start stepping on people's toes that you never said no to
Oh
before.
yeah.
So, what are some ways to be confident in it and how to respond to them without making them feel too bad?
Yeah, I think everything can be handled in a way that's non-confrontational. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that even if you handle a situation in a non-confrontational way, it doesn't mean that they're going to be non-confrontational.
Right.
By hearing that, and I don't know if this is going to exactly answer your question, but when you were talking about that, it made me think about how I've had people in my life that would see me say yes to a bunch of people, let's say all these people over here I said yes to, this individual or these individuals would see me say yes, and they would talk to me about, you really need to say no sometimes, right? But then when I started practicing that on them, now it's a problem, now it's an
Mhm.
Yes.
issue, and now they're going back on, what they were saying, and now I'm a bad person,
You never said no to them. Why are you saying no to me?
Exactly,
Kind of things.
exactly,
Yeah.
and it's, but some of that I see is like manipulation, but
Oh, bring that up, please.
okay.
What does
Ooh.
manipulation on the sly look like?
I like what you just said, and now you're gonna have to say it again for me.
Where you say, they're telling you, well, you should really say no to them. And then when you start saying no across the board and applying it to your life, they use it in the terms of, well, you always said yes to them. Why are you telling me? Why can't you tell me yes now?
Right,
Why is it a no for me?
right, exactly. Like I see that as manipulation.
Okay.
I see that as you know they are not necessarily even trying to see, you know, again, you just told me, or you saw how you're the one who gave me the advice to change this up. Now I'm changing it up, and now you have something negative to say. Now you're feeling slighted, or now I'm acting different, or But that was the whole purpose of me changing this up.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah,
So
I think, and I like the manipulation topic a little bit
yeah,
because we're, maybe I'm wrong on this, or maybe I'm not, but when you look at it, everyone has a slight sense of selfishness or manipulation in how they talk to people because they try to convince you of something. At first, if you're like, no, then those tactics of trying to convince you could be considered manipulation. Because if you're on the fence, somebody could say, well, I have a shot at changing their mind. And I think that's where the manipulation and intent will come in. What is their true intent of what they're trying to get you to do? Like coming on this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Right?
Yes,
No.
go there.
Yes.
I'm not ashamed.
No, but I found I found that for me when I feel like it turns into a manipulation from a trying to convince is when they start bringing up those things of negative nature that they're trying to convince you otherwise that
Yeah.
That's
Or-
they're trying to persuade your perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Or look at what I did for you. Like I get really bothered when someone brings up things that they did for me, and they could even be things that I never even asked them to do,
Right.
but they did it, and now now they want to throw it back in my face when I finally say no about something.
So when I talked about reciprocating,
Hmm.
when somebody brings it back up, but like, hey, I just did this for you.
Hmm.
When they bring it back up, to me, I do take that as a form of manipulation. And like you said, throwing it in my face. Like, but so let me give you a good example. Let's just say a friend of mine is moving this weekend.
Hmm.
And I have not had a weekend off yet, just running and running and running. This was going to be my weekend to just chill,
Hmm.
lock myself in the house for 24 hours and just chill. I do have the time to go help my friend move, but she's asking me only 3 days prior.
Hmm.
And everything in me, I want to say no. And I do say no. But she knows I'm just going to lock myself in the house for 24 hours.
Hmm.
Is that bad? Is that not reciprocating? Is that, let's talk about that.
Yeah. We all have needs, right? And at the end of the day, we have to take care of our needs too. And so there's going to be people that's going to feel slighted. There's going to be people who's going to think like, oh, you're acting funny and things like that. But like if you recognize that, like, hey, I've been running hard. I need some time. I need some space. I need to focus on me right now. And someone else who say that they need you, they can't see that you're trying to do something for you. I question that relationship even. I question,
Yes.
I really question that. I've had friends that, I could really use their help with something. Then I hear like, oh, they're taking care of something else. Like, oh, okay, well, I get it. We all have to take care of, ourselves too. So it's not necessarily my friends know that I love them. My friends know that I care for them, and they know that if I'm available, I'm going to make it happen. But if I'm not available due to just needing rest, then my friends are going to be okay with that. The people that I truly call friends. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'll put it that way.
Yeah, the type of person I am is when I'm at, like, for instance, let's use a 3-day scenario, right? If I know I have nothing planned this weekend, a friend comes and asks me, I have a problem with it personally. Like I try to work through it. I'm like, well, I can either just sit and be a bump on a log. I know I need that time, but I know I'm a friend to them. And I do, to me, friendship is you do things without asking for reciprocation, right? You're like, is it within my power or sphere of control or influence? So those are things that I battle with. And that's why I say I'm in my season of no, because that goes in that self-help, being healthy for myself, not just for our relationship or the friendships that I have, but for me, those are struggles. I think that somebody that wants to be a good friend or that feels they're a good friend, how do we combat those kind of things? Because, if you came to me and said, yeah, I need your help. And I'm like, I really want to do this, but I know it's wrong. How do you balance that self love with, what, this friend's important to me? So, I know I'd rather sleep, but I know they really need the help.
Yeah.
So how do you juggle those kind of
For
things?
me, if it's not life or death, if it's not life or death, if I'm taking care of me, or
Mhm.
I've had some people get mad at me because I'm taking care of my family, and I'm like, this is my
Wow.
family.
Yes.
Yeah.
I appreciate our friendship or so-called friendship. I don't know.
Mhm.
But like I need to take care of this over here. This is what I signed up for, right? right here. You know, so yeah.
That's great. And I'm glad you guys are talking about self love because that's going to be our next topic. I do want to address our audience. Thank you, everybody, for joining the Jay and Margot show, where we keep it real, raw, and respectful. We would like this to be an interactive live session. So as we're talking and you have a question, I am monitoring the comments here. So, I can interject and have the guys answer that for you. But let's talk about self love because that is huge. To me, I really feel like when you know who you are, you know self-love is a priority.
Mm.
And in order to be able to have in order to have self-love and you know who you are, that's how you can set up those healthy boundaries. Because without having self-love, you don't have boundaries. You let people step all over you and take you for granted. And if you're passive aggressive and you're angry all the time, that's passive aggressiveness because you don't have healthy boundaries. So let's talk about that. Like how, like we said, I am a reformed people pleaser, even with my own children. Okay. Well, my older children will say I still people please my younger children because they're like, you ain't hard enough on them, you know. Where my younger children are like, oh no, mom, you ain't doing enough, you know. Which I had an episode recently where I had to call my oldest, and she was like, no, you need time for you. And I called Jay, my accountability partner, and she told me, you need to go and do something for you right now. Because I was in that attitude of, I don't swear very often, but when I was in the attitude of F these kids.
Like, but what triggered that though? So like,
I didn't take time for me. I was way over my limit. And I tried to tell them, you guys, I'm over my limit. I need space. Let me be. Oh, they can let me be, but they will be going at it in the background.
But is it possible to show, because passive aggressive is something that we don't see that we display ourselves until somebody calls it on us, and then we might get angry. They call us that we're passive aggressive. I've had episodes of those, right? Even our kids can see that. We're like, why is mom or dad mad at us? And something may not have triggered us, like for instance, that you may not have had your time. That was a trigger that you may have never had or had. So how do we, I guess, work towards some of those passive aggressive triggers or things that cause us to be passive aggressive when we're triggered in certain scenarios, right? Like what I'm hearing, something triggered you to kind of take a step back from that and look at it. So I don't know, it's something that I see.
You want to answer that, Dr. McDowell?
So let me make sure I understand your question. Your question is, so when we become passive aggressive, you want to know like what is the thing that triggers the.
Yeah. How do we identify those triggers? Because when let's say we're in a conversation and somebody says something, whether it's a friend, partner, spouse, what have you, and they say, well, why are you getting angry when you're talking to me like that? And then all of a sudden they challenge that. Well, I'm not angry. And then you go into defending why you're not angry, but there's a trigger that something that caused that conflict to happen, where there's a disagreement or misunderstanding of what they're seeing or what's being displayed at that time.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a good answer for that question. But what I can say is that there are times where we're passive aggressive, and but I think you've already said this, like we don't even recognize that we're even being passive aggressive. I go back to I don't know if anybody's ever had someone to say that they'll do something for you, and that in the midst of them doing it, they're complaining, like they're okay.
All the time.
Okay.
Yes.
Like they're complaining about it and things like that,
I've been in
and
relationships where people have done that.
yeah. And so like, not only can that be passive aggressive, but it also can be manipulation and all that kind of stuff too, but I don't. And so again, I don't feel like I'm on a path to truly answer your question, because my mind is centered around, I'm going back to like some of the people that's been in my life who have been passive aggressive and who have just made relationships extremely hard to maintain because of being, passive aggressive, or
Right.
not just willing to say what they truly think or what how they truly feel. So now we're in this I don't know, those
Well, you
relationships
we
can become toxic.
well, you
Crazy
said
cycle.
something
Yeah.
though. You said not being able to recognize or communicate how we feel. I think you said something
Yeah.
along those lines. So, is that on the person receiving the message or giving the message that becomes the passive aggressive
Giving the
person?
message to me.
Right. So,
Yeah.
are you saying that the reason that person can become passive aggressive is because they're not able to articulate what they're feeling at that moment, other than what they feel they're
Yeah, I mean, I guess there can be an argument on both sides,
Yes.
on both sides of that, because communication is a two-way street.
right.
It's what I say and how it comes out of my mouth, but it's also on the other person on how they hear what I say too, because
Hmm.
we all have a lens. I always use my glasses as an example. I can see, I see the world through these lenses, right? But these lens shape how I see the world,
Right.
right? And so
Right.
and so, and well, you have glasses
Yeah.
on. You see the world
Mhm.
through a different set of lens that I do,
Yeah.
right?
That's
You know,
great.
so
That's good.
yeah,
Mhm.
Good.
so it really that communication pattern, it's on both. It falls on both people. It falls on the responsibility of both people. So that's
Right.
what I would say
Okay.
about that.
I like that.
Okay.
That's a
Yeah.
good example. Um,
Let me borrow your glasses for a little bit and see. No,
I know, right?
get some of
You
them
want to see the
answers.
world the way I
Yeah.
see it.
back to your question, Adrian, how do we know like what our triggers or what triggers us? To me, I think it really goes hand in hand with being self-aware,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because and in order to be self-aware, you have to be mature or have emotional intelligence. Um, and when you start to feel that anxiety, anger, stress, like your blood pressure kind of goes up. I had to take this. Well, I didn't have to take anger management class, but I took it with one of my exes because he had to take it, and he swore I needed it, which I did. I honestly did. I need to pull out those notes. That's what I need to do. But and that was one of the things that they said is being aware. Self-awareness is being aware of how your body is reacting to what's going on. So when somebody is acting away or saying something, it we call them triggers. And you get triggered for one reason or another,
Mhm.
or you're just calm because you're confident of your healthy boundaries and you've given yourself enough self-love that you can communicate again, back to your communicating your emotions and your thoughts, ideas very clearly. But like he said, what Melvin said, that it's a two-way street though.
Well, you got to be open for positive and negative criticism without allowing yourself to be in a fight or flight kind of mode, right? Especially if it's with
Yes.
your partner. One thing I've learned, I've been in healthy, toxic, in relationships where I've been the healthy one, where I've been the toxic one, where
Hmm.
I've learned a lot of things over the last, I won't say I'm about to hit a milestone, but service lights coming on, guys. No,
Right.
I think for me is being open and willing to accept the criticism, whether positive or negative.
Yes.
We're quick to tell me how good everything is. Tell me this is great. Tell me how much you love me. Tell me how much you care. Tell me how much good things I'm doing for you. This is like
Yeah.
builds my ego, right? But then the moment you tell me that I'm passive aggressive or that I'm not hearing you, the flag goes up, right? And that's not right for either party, because one, you're disrupting your own peace because you're
That's
not
right.
willing to have an open ears or open mind or open heart for somebody that either you're supposed to care about, somebody that's a friend, somebody that you're supposed to be intimate with or compassionate with. It just goes out the window. So I think for me, and I know a lot of guys that are like this, that they're not willing to accept those criticism unless you see their point of view, right? And I think that's where a lot of
Friction.
friction happens. Thank you. So for me, one of the back to the guardrails and kind of tying that piece together is that being able to accept those things, right? Good and bad criticism.
Yes.
So as long as it's not malicious, right? There's a difference. Don't get me wrong.
It
There's
has to be respectful.
yes.
There's a saying that I hear quite a bit, saying the truth in love.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And again, that comes with that emotional maturity and not being toxic.
Mhm.
Hear that, people? Toxic. We have one question in the group. Actually, Lady J joined us.
Mhm.
Yay! Hello, Jessica. um, well, this question is on the topic, and then we'll address the other questions. On topic question is, what are some green flags to look for in a relationship? So we're going to be moving into relationship, or
Okay.
I guess, and then the other question is, how do you know when you found the one? So let's make a natural progression. So let's just say, you know how they say in dating that you should be friends first. Let's
Mhm.
talk about that. Well, first of all,
Hmm.
let's squash this one right now. I used to hear all the time that male and female cannot just be friends. You hear, toxic people saying, "Oh, you can't be friends with the opposite sex. You really want them if you're their friend." Let's talk about what platonic friendship boundaries look like with the opposite sex. Because I really do believe, especially in a singleness stage, um, I do have some male friends. I had to set boundaries on those as
Mhm.
well. Um, and just like Adrian and I are friends, but we don't even talk. Not even months can go by before we talk,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but I could call him on the drop of a dime and you'll answer, and vice versa,
Mhm.
because he knows I respect the friendship, and I'm, not having him at my every whim, because I understand he's not my man. Listen, ladies, I'm giving you guys some hints here, okay? And so what do healthy boundaries look like in a platonic friendship? We'll go with Adrian first, and then we'll let the therapist,
Oof, okay.
correct us if we're wrong in our thinking.
So the first thoughts for me is when Bismarck, you say she's just a friend, or he's just my
Now that was a
my
good song,
yeah, it
though.
was.
It was.
So for me it is there's no intimacy, right? And there should be no pursuit of intimacy. I think first and foremost, if
Define intimacy.
well, intimacy to me is multiple levels, right? There's the romantic intimacy. There's the heartfelt intimacy to where you're now in- where you're divulging into your personal matters that are really of emotional nature, right? And
Okay,
now,
emotional
now,
nature.
now
I
there's a
agree.
friendship
Emotional.
boundary, right? But then there's parts that you just don't talk about, right? Because yeah, it's better to seek whether it's woman to woman friendship in those regards, or there's just things you don't talk about, and we can make a list, I guess. But I think the forms of intimacy are just that, right? It's where you build that connection of, well, there's that spiritual, that physical connection. And so not saying you can't have friends that you go to church with or acquaintances, but when you're in a relationship, those boundaries and guardrails definitely need to be set. And even as in your singleness, like with where I'm at right now, and as I'm pursuing a romantic relationship with somebody, I don't put that same level of energy into a person that is of friend or nature, because it crosses the lines. It creates trust issues with the person that I do would like to be with at some point, right? They can create friction that doesn't need to be there.
Oh,
So for me,
definitely.
that level of intimacy is, hey, good morning, how are you? Hey, good evening. Where every waking part of your day is now with that friend, which it should be towards your partner or even in your own singleness, right?
Mhm.
So to me, that's one area or one guardrail that is important to maintain. There's no intimacy.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot more. I don't have a whole lot more to add to that. What I can say is that in my field, so in the field that I work in, I'm a social worker. In this field, I am surrounded by women. Women are everywhere,
Yes.
So even in my schooling programs and stuff like that, it's like me and one other guy, if that, right? And so do I have friendships with some of the ladies that either work here, at my office, or that I went to school with, or things like that? Absolutely. But at the same time, and again, my situation is different from yours.
Mhm.
I'm married. Been married 20 years in 2 weeks. 20 years in
20
two.
years and 2 weeks.
20 years and 2 weeks. Yeah. So, and so I would never do anything that's going to disrespect my marriage. So again, my situation is a little bit different. I would never do anything to disrespect my marriage. I'm not going to, if I'm not gonna, like go out to eat with another, single woman or anything like that. If it's not like a group of us going somewhere, but even in that, like my wife's gonna know about it, and I don't have a problem with that. You know, so for me it's having those boundaries, monitoring how close I let people get to me, and what that means, and even monitoring what they say to me as well. I've had some women in
That's really good.
that I've worked with, or in a couple different capacities, that started to conversation about their personal life, and like started in I saw where the conversation was going, and I mean, I get a little awkward when people start doing that kind of stuff. If it's not in a therapy setting, right? If
Right,
it's not in a
right.
therapy setting, I welcome it in a therapy setting because I'm your therapist, and you
Okay.
you should feel free to,
Yeah.
to talk to me about some of this stuff so that I can help you out. But like if it's not in a therapy setting and you're going down this road and and now you're talking about some intimate stuff, like, okay, now this feels inappropriate.
So
you
do you
know
excuse yourself? I
How
mean,
do you
how,
get
how,
out
so,
of it?
how do you? What are your?
so like I said, I get a little awkward at times, and it's again, like, first off, I value the fact that they feel comfortable enough. If they're not trying to hit on me, if they're not trying to, I value the fact that they feel comfortable enough to tell me, to talk to me, or try to get some advice or stuff from me. So I value that and I appreciate that. But at the same time, it's like, you know, I have to say, I feel like this conversation is, not appropriate, or this conversation is, I don't really think my wife would appreciate this conversation right now. So
It's good.
while I value what you're saying and I think it's important, I'm wondering if we can find somebody else who might help you to, like, kind of deal with, what you're talking about.
That's awesome.
Or I have some therapists on staff who would be
I was
great.
just gonna say
I have some
Yeah.
therapists on staff who would be great to, really have this conversation. And I might even say that first too. If me telling them that, this is an inappropriate conversation, maybe I'm not that abrupt. Maybe it's like, what you're saying right now, have you ever considered therapy? Like I cut it off with that, because
That's good.
I got some connections.
Mhm.
Let me see what I can do, with that. So that's what I would say.
You should be like, have you met my therapist staff yet?
Oh, right.
So I went to this service. I went and visited my sister in Arizona. She took me to her church, and ironically, they were talking about they had a series on marriage relationships, but also in your singleness, right? So he was able to tie all that together, and I took some notes or some screenshots. One of the things is avoid spending a time alone with someone of the opposite sex, even if you're in a relationship or not, right? That fosters that intimacy factor,
Yeah,
right?
so
So
like
it's
two single people
like
spending too much time.
absolutely. So if you're platonic friends going out to eat for lunch somewhere in a public place, work setting, it's a cool thing. But now you're gonna come to my house. I'm gonna make dinner. It's gonna be us. We're gonna Netflix and chill, kind of. No,
Yeah, no.
right? That so spending the time alone with one another is a huge guardrail, and should be a red flag in that friendship, right? You're crossing boundaries. And the other one was protect your devices and have accountability. They said protect your devices, meaning that uh, don't. So he was referring to, if you're in a relationship, you shouldn't be afraid to let your loved one or your accountability partner know what's going on. Right now, there's things that are personal, but you need to have an accountability partner, and I think that's where having a team or a staff that you can direct somebody to be accountable for your own actions, but yet kind of persuade someone to say you really should go talk to someone in this area because
Right.
yeah.
Like you said that before, women talking with women, men talking with men.
Mhm.
That is huge. And that kind of actually leads into guarding your heart. Because, so let's just say, normally when opposite sex friendship happens,
Mhm.
it's because you're connecting on a certain level and you want this person to be your friend. You find them interesting in some kind of way, or else you wouldn't want to be friends with them.
Right.
So let's just say two people find each other interesting and they're starting off as friends. What are the green flags to continue to move forward or start fostering that?
And we're saying, and I just want to make sure we're clear. We're talking green flags, not red flags,
Green
right?
flags.
Green flags.
Green
Okay.
flags. What are
Okay.
good green
Yeah.
flags?
Green
Well,
flags.
let me change my phone.
Because
No,
I
I'm just
think-
kidding. Let me change the page.
Because I think, like with me, it's funny. Let's use me as an example here. Jay gets so frustrated with me if you guys ever go back into any of our past episodes because she's like, do you really want to be married? Like, because I don't know if you guys watch Seinfeld or not, how it seems like he always finds an excuse in somebody.
Okay.
Where I don't personally think I find too many excuses. Do people get on my nerves very quick? Oh yes. Very much so. And because I kind of feel like I've been single for so long, and I'm enjoying my peace, I'm enjoying my freedom. And I know I don't want to make a mistake again.
Mhm.
So maybe sometimes she's my accountability and she will check me
Mhm.
on, oh, you are looking for an excuse now, you know. So what are green flags? And
Yeah.
I'm sure this is why she had me ask this question so I could get some therapy tonight.
Yeah. I mean, the couple things come up for me when I think about green flags. Signs that let me know that it's okay to move forward with this person. I would say, I mean, you never really know someone until you know how they respond to like when they're angry. And
Mm.
so if I can see you, because we all get angry. Anger is a natural emotion that we all experience. And so, but when if I can see them get angry, but I can see them like process the anger and work through the anger and come to some kind of resolve due to the anger, like, okay, like I can work with that,
Yes.
because again, you
Yes.
never like I want to see how people respond when they get angry, because that's when you get to see the real them.
Mhm.
So that's a green flag for me. It's like, oh, that brought some strong emotions about for you, but I watched you work through those emotions. you know um a green flag would, I mean, I love a person who has gone to therapy. I love, like who've like worked through their stuff.
Yes.
I was just telling the young guy that I'm mentoring. I'm like, you get out of one relationship and you hurry up, and like within a week or two you're in another relationship, but you never take the time to work on you. And so like you never get that healing. You bring in other people into this mess, into this brokenness,
Yes.
and you wondering why you keep cycling out of these relationships. So a green flag for me would be, or a green flag that I would encourage, anyone else to look for, is someone who has done the work.
Amen.
Have you done the work? Are you working through your stuff? It's one thing to have gone through like childhood trauma and relationship trauma and things like that. Okay, I hear that. I can respect that. But have you done the work to get through that stuff? So
That's good.
that's a green flag for me. Another green flag is respecting my boundaries. So if I say, if we're talking about, well, if we're in a relationship, and well, I guess no. The question is, was a green flag to pursue the relationship, right? So
Correct.
I'll go back on what I was about to say, but I'll stop talking now. I don't know if you have any.
Green flags. So
Well, let me redirect the question since you're a single male. Um, when you just start off as a friend, somebody, again, like I said, um, two people out in public start talking and you want to become friends because you find something interesting about them. And you just start off as friends just to see if it's something you kind of want to pursue. What are some of those green flags to start building intimacy, but not being exclusive yet, not saying we're boyfriend and
right.
girlfriend?
So I think it kind of hinders on time, right? It's the willingness to be available for each other versus always having I want to say an excuse, but something to fall back on. I realize, life happens and there's things that come up all the time.
Hmm.
But if your availability is contingent upon life, then there's never going to be availability for a relationship with someone, right? So
Yeah.
it's being willing to put in the work to make the time of availability. Because if you're not willing to do that with life happening already, I look at it
Oh,
this
that's
way: we
good.
have two adult lives that are brought up. So there's a difference. I believe there's a difference when there's the young, innocent love. And I mean, where you don't know about life, but you're growing, you're learning, your trials and tribulations. There's that kind of growth and time and availability that you learn together. But then there's the 30 and up club or 40 and up club. And what I mean by that
50 and
is,
up, can we say 50
well,
and up?
one more. So, so with that, you bring in a world of experience, but also with that, you have a life that you've built for those 30, 40, 50 years. That now, how are you balancing those things that is with your life and I have the things with my life. So again, this is where the green flag comes in, is how are we balancing those on the availability and time for each other? Because if you're allowing the life to get in the way of that, maybe I'm not the one for you or you're not the one for me. So but if you are doing those things, that's a huge, Sunday flag, that's waving in the air, that's a green flag because they're putting forth the effort that they want to spend time with you or to take time to get to know you more than
So you're available. Your
availability. I think is
availability
is
is
is a big one.
okay. That's good. Now, since we're moving into that, one of the questions was how to grow a good relationship. We're kind of discussing that right now. Um, how do you grow it while guarding your heart? Because you don't know if this is somebody yet that you want to become exclusive, or even when you do become exclusive, you can't give yourself completely away to this person yet. The way I feel, you can't even do it until you're married, honestly, because even an engagement, you might, something might happen, and then the engagement's broken. Of course, your intimacy is going to be stronger at that point at engagement. But what's the natural progression of allowing somebody more intimacy in your life? And I'm not talking physical intimacy, people. Well, I'm talking about the emotional, the intellectual, and even spiritual, because if you believe in the word and you're starting to grow with somebody, you need to be with somebody with the like-mindedness.
One word comes to my mind is vulnerability. If you're going to be vulnerable with those you feel comfortable with, and that to me allows you to come around the wall. You don't have to climb the wall because I believe we all have walls that help guard our hearts and our spirit and the way we think and operate. And to some extent, everyone says, well, what do I got to do to crumble those walls? Or how do I bring down the walls? Well, really, to me, it's deeper than that, right? It's the vulnerability factor is this somebody I can be vulnerable with? And because you can meet people all the time, and if you're not willing to be vulnerable with somebody, then are you willing to take it to that next step of the intimacy of sharing the things that are important with you? Because day in day out, I can tell you now, most people aren't walking around vulnerable saying, oh, this bothers me, that bothers me, I'm happy about this. They don't share those things in life. I mean, you might be one of those people. I'm unfortunately not, right? So to me, I think that's a huge piece of, if I can be vulnerable with you. You might be the nicest person on this earth, right? And
Mhm.
if I can't be vulnerable with you, that's a huge aspect to me of being able to be open and allowing you, and for me to allow to love that person too, or to show feelings and emotion too. So that's
Yeah, and you saying that to me when you say vulnerable, in order for me to feel vulnerable, I have to trust. If I don't
mhm,
feel like I can trust you, there is no way I'm opening up to you. Um, but I noticed I've given my trust too soon to certain people too. They did not
mhm,
earn my trust. I know people don't like to hear that, but when you are a healthy person, and only I really believe, you can correct me with what I'm about to say. I
Go
only
for it.
believe toxic people are going to hate what I'm about to say. But when you are a healthy person, you allow people to earn your time and your trust, which in turn creates that vulnerability to give them your heart.
mhm,
And that could be in friendship or dating relationships. And again, like I said, the only ones, whenever I'm talking to men who are interested in me, but I'm pulling back the reins because of boundaries, I've noticed the only ones who complain are toxic people.
Mm.
Am I wrong in saying that?
I mean, I don't think that you're wrong in saying it. I think that so the original question was like, what do we do to build, to move forward with, and making sure that we're moving forward, but not but still kind of protecting ourselves in a
Yes.
way, right?
Yes.
So that for me, I mean, I think it's individualized. So first and foremost, I think it's an individual thing. So I don't think that's a cookie cutter thing. Like I think
Yes.
it's, it just depends on the person. But it's like anything else. It's a little bit at a time. It's not. I don't want to give you all of my heart and all of this so fast, but I don't want to keep it away from you either, though, because I mean, and we all operate at different speeds and stuff too. Some people want to date for a year before they make it serious. Some people want to be in a relationship, for 5 years or more before they get married. Some people want to get married like yesterday. So like we all have different expectations when it comes down to that. So I think I just think it's important to understand. This is kind of going back to us when what we were talking about in the very beginning, just understanding who
Yes.
you are. What do you believe? What do you want? What's good for you? What's not good for you? And so but also being able to communicate that with that individual to see if they are the person that you want to continue to travel down this road with. So um
That's good.
yeah.
And I'm glad you're saying it that way because I am in a season of I know I want to be married
Mhm.
again. That's in my heart. Now sometimes I make it difficult for myself, like I said. But with that being said, I'm not out here just entertaining anybody either though.
Right.
So when a guy approaches me and we get to talking, and he wants my phone number, and then we start talking because you got to kind of get to know somebody and asking the questions. One of my first questions that I ask is, "What are you looking for?"
Well, if he's asking for your phone number, he's probably a little older. And most people ask for what is your inbox or what is your Instagram? What is your cat?
Well,
No,
yes, I
no.
said me, and I am 50. So,
I'm not saying- no,
but
but yeah.
so in when I say that, and they're like, "Well, what are you looking for?" And I'm like, "I am looking, you know, for a relationship that could potentially lead into marriage." Oh my God, some guys, the way that they react to that, or they're like, "How can you even bring that up right now?" And I tell them because I'm not out here for play.
Mhm.
So, with that
Mm.
being said, when you said know thyself, know yourself and what you want,
Mhm.
how soon should somebody be bringing those kind of things up with their expectation? Once you find out, okay, I am interested, you know?
Yeah, I hate this default answer, but I think it's an individualized situation. Again, I think it depends on where you're at in life. I think for someone who's 50, who's is different than someone who is 23. You know what I'm saying? And so like what you're looking for, what do you hold close to you in terms of like, do I need to be, do I want to be married in like a year or two, versus like I got time, I got time. I'm not pressed on it, So again, I don't think there's a cookie cutter answer to that question in terms of like how fast do you bring up the marriage thing or things like that. Again, we're all different. We're all different. So
And I think it goes into the respect of conversation with somebody that you're meeting, right? Because um, at my age, and I mean, pretty much at any age, I think you should be willing to not be afraid to ask a question in a form of retribution, right? Like you said, the guy said, "Well, oh, you're already talking about marriage. Oh, I'm scared. I'm not going to talk." There's a fear factor there, and I think if you truly want to get to know somebody, you're there on either on a date or a first meeting, or you're talking about things because you want to get to know who they are, and that goes into what are they interested in, what are their wants. So do I think the first date is too scary to talk about marriage? I think a lot of guys will get the lump in their throat. And speaking for me, I get the lump in the throat. It's like we're just trying to get through dinner and dessert,
I don't
But
even know your middle name yet.
yeah. So do I think at some point I think those kind of questions should be reserved for second, third dates or whatnot because you want to get to know that person intimately. But if it's that important to you, absolutely bring it up, right? Because you shouldn't be scared with anybody in life to ask a question and feel there's going to be some sort of retribution because if there is, that could be, the sign you may be looking for, that, hey, you know what, we can't talk about certain things, certain topics are taboo. And I think that's, back to that default answer, right? It's everyone's different
Yes.
position, but from where I sit, and I'm not trying to speak generality, because I've always got, so you speak too general. Fair enough. Okay, so what Adrian likes, or what I would expect, is speak your mind, right? So if
Mhm.
we're out and you say that, I will react, the lump in the throat, check please, kind of thing. But I won't run from it. I won't shy, because you got to respect the person you're with and being willing to talk about those kind of things. Now, if you ask, second, third layer questions, there's just some things I feel could be considered taboo. And you ask me, well, what are those? Well, um, you know, past relationships. Do you really want to know about my past relationships at this point? Is it important to you? Because there could be some things that might trigger you, might trigger me. So are we at that level of vulnerability and willing to talk? So for me, I wouldn't want to talk about those things, because I just want to see what dynamics exist with us. And then we can start working on, are there sparks? Are there other things based on that? So, because those are intimate things,
That's
right?
good. Yes.
So,
That's real good. We're actually rounding up to an hour already.
oh, wow.
So with that being said, I did, out of respect for their time, want to keep this as close to an hour as possible. So if there's anybody out there who has a question, ask now or forever hold your peace. Now, again, you've got a therapist and a single guy, the male perspective here. So if you guys want to drop your question into the chat, we'll give it a few minutes. But I do have a question myself. Uh, let's see. Oh, we covered that one.
And for the record, I had minimal knowledge what was going to be asked, and this is my first time meeting the good doctor here. But,
Yeah.
Actually, we kind of covered the questions that I did have. The one, there is one kind of, but like, again, I think those were the non-negotiables, though. Like when you are starting to date somebody and you've made it past the thing, like, hey, let's be exclusive. Let's see where this goes. Once that happens and you're cutting off other people, what are some things? Obviously, you've known that person enough where you feel comfortable, like, yes, let's take it into the next step. What are, oh, that's what you said that I wanted to tie back into past relationships. I think at that point when you become exclusive, you dive more into the intimacy and people start asking the more deeper questions. Like, I've been married and divorced. I've had dated since. Um, and then they start asking you, well, what was your last relationship like, or how did those things end? So they want to get like a relationship history on you. Is that good? Is that bad? Because I've had it both ways, where somebody's held my past against me, when I'm not even doing, you know what I mean? Like, it has nothing to do with what we currently have going on. So to me, that caused me to end the relationship when I started seeing the triggers in the other person, because what I was saying triggered them. But I addressed it first, you know, brought it up, like, hey, I'm noticing that I'll just go ahead. I was dating this John guy, just to give an example so people understand. Dating this guy, not even really, yeah, because we went out a couple of times, so that technically dating. And he brought up this other single man that he saw me talking to at church. Okay. And I was like, yep, we never went out, just friends. We had some commonalities, and we talked, but never dated.
Mhm.
But this guy knew the reputation of that man and got jealous, but would bring it up and kept bringing it up. And to me, I had to address it. I'm like, okay, I'm noticing you're bringing this person's name up. Why? Where is this coming from? I feel like there's either self-esteem issue going on or a trust issue. And it was a trigger for him because he was divorced and his beautiful wife cheated on him.
Mhm.
Which I felt like he wasn't completely healed. and we discussed it. He didn't see it like that, and it continued to happen, and then I cut it off. So what are other things that could cause that to happen at that point when you become vulnerable, bringing up history? Is it good or bad to even ask these questions?
Um, it's I hate that narrative of like the good or bad kind of a thing. I think for us to ask questions about someone who we are starting to learn more about, and could potentially see ourselves with down the road, I think that is normal. I think it's natural. So again, I don't want to give it a good or bad kind of a thing.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we might hear some stuff that we don't want to hear, you
Right.
know, but it also, um,
If we know we really don't want to hear it, should we even ask those questions?
that's a great question. That's a great
I'm a glutton for punishment because I know if it bothers me, I'm gonna ask, even though if I know I might hear a bad thing,
Mhm.
and and unfortunately, like I said, I've been in the good and I've been in healthy. That does trigger a toxicity in you that creates a form of jealousy. Now, trust because you are now putting those past on who you are today. And for me, I realized that I used to do that back in the day where it was not fair to the person that's being vulnerable with me. So for me it was like, wow, they opened up, they told me about something that was personal and about them. They trusted me enough with that information, but yet I allowed it to bubble up into a form of aggression or jealousy, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
and then when we would argue, or an argument would come up about that topic where I was uncomfortable about it, about that relationship, it would bubble over into different things. Now, could there be justified jealousy? Absolutely. Could there be jealousy that's unprovoked? Absolutely. So I think understanding your person is key. But the other part is your past is your past, and what it doesn't, I don't want to say define you, because you may hopefully may have matured and grown from those things. But if your partner or your person has questions about that, I think it's important to understand why they have those concerns, and together, how are you navigating through those? Because for me, if you ask me about somebody in a relationship, I would say, i- is it, people will say, well, that's none of your business. That was in my past. Okay, come on now. Then that's already telltailing a sign if you're not willing to share. But at the same time, they're right. So it's kind of a right and wrong, right? So so for me, I choose that. I err on the side of, yeah, I want to know, because then that shows the trust. But if it perpetuates to where now okay, I'm finding you alone, and it creates all these other things that start bubbling up, then it's justified. But if it's for me projecting, then those are unjustified projections, that being unfair to my person or the person I'm supposed to care and love
Exactly.
about.
Yes.
So for me, putting those in check as a person, and the growing and becoming healthy is most important to yourself before you move on to the next person, because understanding those things and those triggers and why are really going to help you be beneficial in being healthy in whatever you do forward. Because again, you're not projecting, but you're also being healthy with it. So
Good.
that's from my perspective.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It's good. Well, nobody else has asked any additional questions.
Like
Well,
this.
hang on, let me scroll.
No.
Let me scroll. Nope, no additional questions. Um, so to round it all up, we know that green flags are healthy boundaries.
Mhm.
Oh, we actually really learned today. My takeaway from this is know yourself first.
Mhm.
That's very, very important. And become self aware and be healthy. Do the work. We heard Melvin say it. Do the work. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
want somebody healthy and you're looking at them, you got to make sure that you're that person first. So if you have not put in the work, do the work. One last question. Hopefully this don't drag out too long. Um, I could be sitting here thinking that I'm healthy. I've been single for X amount of years, because I haven't been in a relationship with anybody, a very intimate relationship. And I'm thinking I'm healthy because nobody has triggered me. I haven't let nobody get close enough to trigger me and do all of these things. How do you know that you need to do the work? What are signs of that?
My thing is I trust. So my circle isn't too big, but the circle that I have around me, they're willing to tell me about myself, and I trust them. And even when I don't see it, when I have blinders on, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good, and I'm not even necessarily talking about in relationships, but I could just think I'm good in just with everything,
Yes.
but if I got a friend who's saying like, hey, I'm seeing something, or hey, like, so I trust the circle. I trust those people that I have around me, so if I can't see it myself, I trust the people who can see it.
Amen.
Yeah,
That sounds like an accountability partner.
absolutely.
You've heard that multiple times tonight. So if you don't have one, get one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And make sure they're the same sex because you shouldn't have opposite sex accountability unless, again, it's somebody that's already been close to you for a long time. I think family members, mature family members, are good accountability partner if you don't have one. Um, but we'll wrap it up with what Dr. McDowell said there. I thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I
Yep.
actually
Thank
learned
you.
a little bit tonight. I had a great time. And again, if anybody is watching this on the replay, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them and we will address them at a later date. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and have a good evening.